Welcome at this overview of my bike trip down to Jeffreys Bay. I, first of all, would like to thank all of you that supported me on the way. When you do a solo ride, it is really lonely. It is really lonely. But when you get into your place where you stay that evening and you see so many people tell you to go for it, enjoy it, be safe, and the string of comments, all of them positive. Then I named this ride my gratuity ride. Then you really become grateful for people. And I think sometimes we miss each other. We pass each other so quickly, like two bikes on a highway in opposite directions. But yeah, I didn't felt lonely. I really felt that I belong in this small bike community. So that led me come to the next point. So many people beforehand asked me why. Well, I think to answer that, I need to complete the sentence a bit. So the first why is why Jeffreys Bay. My life partner was on holiday there, and it was an ideal distance to go. I didn't want to go more than 3 days at a time. So I went down for 3 days, stayed over 4 days, and 3 days back. So that was the reason why Jeffreys Bay. Then why this route? I am not an experienced rider, maybe more now than beforehand. I wanted to stay off the main arteries, the N1 and the N3. So yeah, to capture just the route I went from Pretoria, Delmas, Villiers, over the highway, Reitz, Clarence, around Lesotho, then down to Queenstown, Grahamstown, to the coast, PE, and then to Jeffreys Bay. And then why 200cc? I think the first proper answer would be, that's what I can afford. The second one is, yeah, I wanted to show the guys with the one before the 200, the 1200s, this can be done as well. But there's also a subtle, smaller reason. My top speed was not high, so I could really observe my environment in depth. I saw a black mamba, not a big one. I saw a turtle. I think I saw a hare, a hussy, and I saw the spackworm in bloom. That was quite spectacular. So yeah, that is the reasons why. Then we need to talk about danger. A lot of people wish me a lot of safety, but actually was only in danger twice. The first time was actually not danger, it's more a situation of discomfort. I arrived fairly late in the afternoon in Queenstown, obviously a place I've never seen before. I assumed, that big word, assume, we should never assume, that there will be a camping spot, there'll be a backpackers, or some form of cheap accommodation. After all, I just need a bed and a shower, that's it. For that matter, the shower could have been outside. And I couldn't find any. There is none of these things in Queenstown. Luckily, a friend of mine jumped on the internet and he gave me a number. I negotiated with them. They referred me to somebody else and I got into a safe place for the night. But that was discomfort. I had my tent with me. I had a sleeping bag and everything I needed. And I spotted a church with a nice dark backyard, and that would have been the option if I couldn't find anything else. But the danger one is really actually the only time I was in real danger. And it turned out well, I'm still here. I went from Grahamstown down to PE. And as I was riding, I constantly looked at my rearview mirror. I realized, but there's a truck coming, and it's just, I'm in the emergency lane. He's in the lane next to me, but there's another lane. Then I saw another truck that wanted to pass him, and all of a sudden, my emergency lane disappeared in 50 meters. And I knew this poor chap needed to make a decision. Either he's in an accident with another truck, or it's me. And he picked me. But it was not a problem. As you can see, actually here on the left, the bike have proper off-road tires. I dropped the accelerator, the engine killed. I got into the grass, and everybody was safe. That was the only time that I really felt, wow, this is a bit sketchy. But I want to motivate you guys as well, not just by saying there is not real danger. If you're alert, you're awake, and you take good decisions, then you don't have a problem. But I also want to thank the greater public out there, everybody that passed me. I haven't had one person that used the tutor on me or flashed me or nothing. That was really, really great. And sometimes they came past me at hell of a speeds, but I tried to negotiate that as well, get out of the way so that they don't need to pass too far. Now I would like to tell you guys a bit more about alterations and changes I made on the bike. The first one is I put some goo into the tires. The tires on this bike is tubeless, so I took it in, I put some goo in it. So what it effectively does is, when you hit something like a nail, for instance, if it's something small and it rips out, the goo will fill the hole, reacts with the air, and then becomes solid. So this was a big thing. I didn't ever use it as far as I know, but it gave me a lot of peace of mind. Then something that I really, really recommend is to change your sprocket in the front. The sprocket in the front helps if you go bigger. That's what I did. It brings your revolutions down. So you're not as powerful in town, but you have enough power. So giving up a little bit is great. But because of the revolutions coming down, you don't spend so much on fuel. That's the one thing. The other thing is you increase your top end. So it kind of feels like you have a sixth gear. At some point you actually feel like, wow, there's another gear. Where with the smaller sprocket in front, the one that it came out with, it kind of felt at the end of the fifth gear, I have a lot of revolutions. If I had another gear, that would have been great. So you overcome that by just enlarging with just one tooth. If your bike allow more space, I would go for one more. In town, there's another reason why I use it. I did it on my other bike as well. It's maybe a good time now to mention that I have a Superlight 200 as well. We have a couple of long stretches between traffic lights, and I have enough power to get away from traffic. But with a higher top end speed, I'm able to actually stay ahead until the next traffic light. So for me, it's a safety factor as well. Yes, I changed, as you can see behind me, I changed the headlight to LED. The light that the bike comes out with is good. It's good enough for town. It's good enough for commuting. But I knew I want to get on the open road, and I wanted to really light it up in front of me if need be. The idea was never to ride at night, but I know sometimes things happen, and then I need a proper light. I also added, and you'll see that in the photos, 2 spotlights. That is about 50 watts each. Then something I haven't changed, but especially you guys that do Uber foods or travel with your bikes with heavy load at the back, you can go to your local shop and let them stiffen your back shocks. It's a bit tougher on your back, but with a shock stiffer, your bike equal out. You don't kind of ride uphill. You'll see behind me, this is unfortunately an addition that I did later on. is by putting up a bit of a windscreen. Now the windscreen is great because there's a little problem. As you ride with these kind of tires, it spew when it's raining. It spews water ahead, and then the wind blow it in your face. So with a windscreen, you don't have that problem. Now, very important, what did I buy? I've told you now about the upgrades that I did, but what did I buy? The first thing is I went down and I knew this is going to happen. I'm a cyclist as well, and I knew that your 10 hours, 12 hours a day on the seat. It's a very comfortable seat, but it is, your arse hurts. Purely because there's not blood circulation. It's nothing to do with the seat or the bike. There's not enough circulation. So when I got down to Jeffreys Bay, I knew people there that have a shoe shop, and they make these awesome winter slippers from sheepskin. So I went over there, got myself some sheepskin, and on the way back, put on 2 pairs of underwear, and I put the sheepskin in between so that it doesn't slip down my leg. So that made a huge difference, really a huge difference. Then for safety's sake, I also bought I call it a skeleton suit. It's basically these plates all over your body, but it's connected with mesh. So it's nice ventilation. And I'll put a jacket over that, so you never really see it. Oh, I first put a long sleeve t-shirt over it, and then a jacket. And that actually leads me to the next thing. A friend of mine, Bram Smith, he advised me to, in the morning, put on my raincoat. The first morning, I didn't believe him. So when I got 60 kilometers away at Delmas, I was shivering. You don't realize how cold it gets, even just at 80 k's an hour. So the plastic of the raincoat pants are awesome isolation. And then I bought a tank bag. This is really a great thing. It actually just attaches on your bike with magnets. So when you get to a place where you're stopping, you need to take your valuables along, you just grab it and you leave. Nothing to untie, nothing to unstrap. And then I also brought a backpack. And the backpack also had my money, more important things. So that is the stuff that I bought beforehand. And okay, and now we will talk statistics. I did 2,700 kilometers over basically 6 days. So you can work out what that is per day, but that's a substantial. It's about 500 kilometers, and that took me about 10 to 12 hours, depending on the terrain. That consumed 90 liters of fuel, which works out to just short of 2,000 Rand in fuel. Our boarding and lodging around about 1,000 Rand, so 3,000 Rand excluding food for the trip. That works out to 50 cents per kilometer, and that works out to 30 kilometers per liter. Now that may sound a bit harsh, and I want to come in support the bike in this regard. I'm not the lightest guy. I'm about 100 kgs by myself, and then I had an additional 20 to 25 kilograms at the back. So I included a tent, sleeping bag, mattress, a stove. I basically took the whole bloody house, kitchen included, kitchen sink included. So yes, it was quite a heavy load at the back. Made the front wheel a bit lighter, but that is why I told you guys earlier to strengthen your shocks at the back. You can turn them, lift the bike, you turn them, and they become more stiff. And then your bike equals out, it parallels, and then the ride is much easier. But once you like I've taken it off, obviously. I don't ride around with it commuting. I must also add, I use my bike for to commute as well. My bike's my only form of transport. Then it's a bit hard on your back. So I wouldn't suggest that if you have an empty load. But yeah, that is the stats. You probably would be able to get more towards 40 kilometers per liter. About my stats, and then it will not be a truthful um, interview if I don't give you the downside of the bike. There's a couple of things. There's a couple of technical things. On the way here, I found it as well. It sometimes gets stuck in a gear. Then you just got to drop it down a gear, and then it kicks in again, and then you can go up again. This is a problem I've had since I had the bike. I kind of had it a bit with my Superlight as well. And I kind of hope that over the years it will soften, and it did. Then the electronics. Um, the electronics is not reliable. The speedo at least is 25% slower than it shows on the clock. The odometer, that is the one to tell you how far you went, that is at least, that counts 30% more kilometers than the reality. And the fuel gauge are just pretty much useless. I have measured the capacity of the tank. It is 18 liters. You do have why the electronics doesn't bother me that much is on a trip like this, I needed to stop regularly. So I used that as an excuse. But you always have the reserve tank. The disadvantage is you cannot accurately calculate your rand per kilometer. So, and then it does need a windscreen. And I explained to you guys earlier why that is the case. What is the upside of this trip? I enjoyed the freedom immensely. For those of you that watch this, I was thinking while I was riding, how can I explain to a non-motorbike biker, what does it feel to do a trip like this? And the only thing that I can think of it is like, if you watch a National Geographic on TV, and you watch that same National Geographic on IMAX, you have a vision as broad as about 180 degrees up all around, and you're part of the movie. You are a player in the movie. But I'll tell you one thing that your bike also had, that my bike had, and I used it, and it enlightened me, and it gave me a lot of gratitude. And this is that little knob. It's called a tutor. If I drive down a road and I was lonely, and there's people next to the road, I just boom, just one button, just one push, and it's a remote control for the most beautiful smile that you'll ever see. I remember a guy on a tractor, this dark guy, he works in the sun, and he shines these white, beautiful teeth, and I just knew he made my day, and I made his day. And there's for no other reason why I worn this t-shirt today, because it is really true. My happiness is locked up in you, and your happiness is locked up in me. We do need each other. Get on your bike, get out there, get a mate to ride with you. I will make more videos like this. Please do join my Facebook group, Small Bike Adventures ZA. I want to invite the other members of the group to make videos like this, make short videos, give me tips, give me ideas what I can talk about. I have a couple ideas like helmets, for instance, road safety, things I picked up that made my trip easier, safer. I'll make more videos, but I need your input. Tell me what you want to hear. That being said, over and out.